Welcome. You are about to take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition show. For the next hour, allow her to prepare you in becoming a magnet for a profound love-infused relationship by identifying and focusing on solutions through love. Awaken the light within and let your essence shine. And now, here's Deborah Beauvais on Love by Intuition, all part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Welcome, everyone. Bonjour, mes amis. And yes, here I am, Deborah Beauvais, founder and owner of the Dream Vision 7 radio network. And if you are tuning in for the first time and not aware of us, we are a Boston-based syndicated internet radio station. You can hear us on our own station, naturally, but also on any podcast that you're used to listening to, whether it's Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, all the different ones. We're also syndicated with some other stations and a few out there in Europe. And we're in our 16th year, which is hard to believe. And so welcome to the show. This is a live show. Bob is in the house, and our toll-free number is 833-220-1200, 833-220-1200. Well, my heart is full because I have an amazing guest. Her name is Susan Lataille. I haven't seen her in quite a while, and she is doing phenomenal things. She did back then, and now she is in the memory and name of her son, Nathan. We're going to be talking about her book, which consists of 11 full stories of honesty around both illness, sister illness, suicide, caregiving, and death by accident. And these are women who are telling their real stories of love and loss. And the book is shining a light on grief. And actually, there's going to be a number 2 book coming out, so we'll talk about that as well. But without further ado, Susan, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. It's so great to be here.
Yes, and I've so looked forward to this, Susan. So why don't you tell us a little bit of why you started this book, and then from there I'd love to hear you share about Nathan. But first, let's talk about a little bit about the book and how that all came to be.
Okay, so after my son passed, I kept feeling like I needed to do something with what I experienced between being a caretaker and the loss of my son. And I kept getting these like little pushes, and I kept resisting. I was like, no, not ready, until it was about 4.5 years after that. I said, okay, now is the time, and I decided I would become a certified master grief coach, thinking that I was going to coach people and individuals and groups. And what that ended up turning into was just getting these, messages, which I listened to those voices in my head, of putting a book together with other people's stories. And so because I'm so well networked in Rhode Island, and I've met so many wonderful women over the course of the last 15 years, I have learned their stories. And it's like when you lose someone or whatever you attract that to you. So I met so many different women that had their own lost stories. So I made a list, and I said, okay, who could I contact that know me, would trust me, and could see my vision? I made a list of 13 people.
Wow.
10 of them said yes.
Mm-hmm.
And within a month or so of me reaching out to them, we started a 6-month journey in creating this book, which was very healing for everyone. It became just a journey of collaboration and support that we met. They had accountability partners, they had drafts, we had a timeline, and within 6 months that book hit Amazon, and it was available as well. We did a local launch here at Stillwater Books. So it was just a beautiful unfolding. And as you can imagine, we became extremely close as a group.
I bet. And I bet there was higher guidance as well, not only from Nathan, but each woman's person that has transitioned to the other side. I mean, all of that, right, I think, is orchestrated into this book. What I love about the book is I can find myself in every story. There's a piece in every story that resonates with my own journey, and that's comforting. And I also like that each story is full. It's not a paragraph. It's not a little clip. It's a whole chapter based on their journey from A to Z, and they really get in depth of their own feelings, even those that may not be all positive feelings, and so it's just truth on paper, and I love that.
Yes,
were you surprised by the way they wrote?
Well, they were coached.
Okay.
That's part of where I came in, where I wanted these stories to be really heartfelt. And I wanted them to be, raw and vulnerable. That in the beginning, most people, and as I continue to go through with authors, it's very much about the details, and it's very much about the other person. I really wanted this to be more about their journey, not so much the person that they lost. I wanted their story, where and how they went through that grief, and where they are now, and what they learned along the way, and how they were able to continue living their lives despite a significant loss. So I found I tapped into something that I had no idea I could do, is I am able to guide these authors, to get to that place of, okay, let's add more here. Let's add more feeling here. I want to know what you were thinking. I want to know what you were feeling in this space. So I go through and I, go through their chapters within 3 drafts, and I put comments, dig deeper here. You put emotions. What were those emotions? And as I go through, that's how we get into a deeper story.
Wow. Well, you accomplished that, Susan. So you're a natural. Yes,
I had no idea.
Think about it. Yes, but see how it all goes back to what I believe. Even when starting the station, I had no idea either. But you're guided, and it doesn't mean that you're not working. You're working, but you have direction. And if it feels good, if it feels right, if you get goosebumps, you're on the right path. And I bet that's something that all of you experienced as you went along this 6 months.
Yeah, as I said, when I was doing the second book, one of my authors, I'm like, if I don't cry reading your story, then it's not deep enough.
Yeah. Wow.
There's not enough emotion there.
Yes. Well, I want to talk about that later, about that second book that's already out. But let's talk about Nathan and you as a mom and the experience that you had. And I didn't know the fullness of what happened there with Nathan and all the things that you experienced and he did, and there's always, when someone is ill, there's always concern is, are you doing the right treatment? Are you doing the right thing? Could you have done a better job? The moms always feel that way, and wives do as well when it's their spouse, But tell us about your journey with Nathan.
Through his illness?
Wherever you'd like to start. You can start when he was 3 years old. It's up to you, Susan.
well, all right. So, Nathan was, his father and I were divorced when he was a very young boy. We separated when he was about 2.5. And so he constantly bounced between the two of us. His father being, he was in the service, so he was stationed in Virginia for a long time. So he would go down there and visit. And then when he retired, his dad moved to Michigan. So he was always going someplace else. It's like he lived in dual worlds. So he would be with me, during the school year until he was 13, and then go and visit his dad on vacation. When he was on school vacation, summer, whichever that was, he would always be there. So, and his entire life, all he really wanted was his family to be together and to at least be on the same page. So when he was 26 years old, he came home to me because his dad and his stepmother just didn't know how to deal with him anymore. He was extremely argumentative. They just couldn't reason with him. So let's send him home to mom, which is what they did. And when he came home, I looked at him and I'm like, okay, what happened? Like, I could tell that he was like just different. I didn't know if life had just beaten him down. He had a series of, life happening to him, girlfriends moving here, moving there. And I could just tell that there was something just off with him, and I didn't know what it was. There were glimpses that I'd see his old self, but I wasn't sure what was really happening with him. And over the course of 6 months, I kept encouraging him to go to the doctors, and he wouldn't go. He was an adult. I couldn't make him go. I could see that there was something going on. So finally, it was November 2014. God, I'm even forgetting dates now. 14. And my husband and I were going on vacation. We were leaving him home. He had to work and whatnot. And I looked at him, I said, Nate, you really, if you don't do this for yourself, I said, please do it for me, because I can't keep seeing you like this. We need to know what's wrong. So sure enough, as luckily we didn't go very far. We went off to Cape Cod, which we thought was going to be a week. And at 2 a.m. in the morning, the phone rang, and it was the local police calling, saying that my son had been into an accident, although he was okay. He was okay. He was still at the hospital, and I needed to call the hospital. So I called the hospital, and the nurse there told me that they found a mass on his brain through a CAT scan. And they were now sending him.
He was having seizures, right?
He was having seizures, although not knowing. I had never experienced, in my mind, seizures were that blown out person on the floor, convulsing. What he was having, I didn't recognize as seizures.
Okay.
So that night when he got into the accident, he had a seizure. Luckily, he was on a side street, hit a few other cars. Thank God he wasn't on the highway, going 70 miles an hour. He would have been killed instantly. So they said they were sending him off to Rhode Island Hospital. I'm like, okay. I get off the phone, and I'm like, I can't even believe what I'm hearing. I'm in shock. So the first thing I do is I call my brother. My brother.
Yes.
And somebody who works late at night, DJing and doing whatever. So I call him. Sure enough, he's up, and I explain to him, what happened, because we've always been so close. He was the first person I thought of calling. So he's like, okay, keep me updated. And of course, I already told my husband because he was with me. And I lay down for a second, and I'm like trying to absorb what's going on. And I'm like, we got to go. We got to go now. And I just, we just packed everything back up, put it all in the car, and made it home in record time because there was no traffic. And we went straight to the hospital, and he was just having seizure after seizure, and they were running test after test. He was non-responsive at this point. They finally brought him into an MRI, and luckily I was so glad they let us, stay in right outside the room, so we weren't too far from him. And then they're like, okay, we're going to bring him up to, his floor, meet us up there on the 6th floor, and we'll let you know when you can see him. I'm waiting in the waiting room. I don't know where I think my husband might have gone home at that point to shower or something. And I was standing there alone, and I remember the neurosurgeon coming up to me, introducing himself, and he goes, okay, we found a tumor on your son's brain, and we need to bring him in for emergency surgery. And then I said, okay. He says, I need to pull a team together because it's Saturday. This is Saturday morning now.
Right.
And he gives me a big hug. He goes, I will treat him as if he's my own son. I was so grateful for the compassion of this doctor.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that's what happened. He went into emergency surgery, came out with flying colors, although they could not get the entire tumor because it had already infiltrated some of the other parts of his brain where it was too risky to take out. So
then he had a second surgery.
Then he had a second surgery almost 2 years to the date.
Mhm.
It was, and that one, it was a similar scenario, although something during the surgery affected his speaking, like the communication between his brain and speaking what he was thinking. Mm-hmm. So at that point, he chose to speak very little because things just weren't coming out the way he wanted them to. And then that second surgery was almost useless because it just started growing right back, and then 4 months later he died. So, and it was just like a month after the surgery, he just continued to decline. Like every week he was worse. And the frustrating part was getting appointments for him. Like everything was so far stretched out. Like, okay, you can't get an MRI till you see the doctor, but you can't see the oncologist until you make, for 2 weeks. And then, okay, then you have the appointment. Now you don't have the MRI for 2 weeks. And it's like, I felt like so much time was wasted in going by that whether something could have been done or not, whether it would have helped or not, who knows?
Right, but those are the things that you question.
Right, and every time I go down that road of, did we do the right thing? Did we do the right treatment? Could something else have done? Nathan tells me no.
Okay.
He always tells me no. He
right,
says, this is the way it was meant to be.
Yes, and so that must give you assurance and soothe your soul because you're receiving that message from him.
Yeah, I mean, that started shortly after, when I, the one time that I did go down that, of just going, why this, and just that moment of anger of, like, why him? Why did he have to go through this? Is there anything else we could have done? And he just goes, no, Mom, stop. No, you did everything you could. And
right.
and I did my best to do everything I could so that I wouldn't have any regrets. Mm-hmm. Because, I spent as much time with him. I did everything that I knew that I could within reason, and also to honor his wishes. I so wanted to allow him to go through the journey as he needed to go through it. So,
and I think that is so important, too, even if you may disagree with what that person chooses for treatment. Right. You honored him, and that's bravery to be able to honor whatever his choice is. And I think that is key with whether it is a family member with dementia or any of the things that go on, whether someone's doing chemo. I've had to learn that myself, to honor everyone's choice, even if I'm not agreeing with it, because it's their body and it's their life.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And in his wish to bring his family together, we did come together in the end. And his dad and his siblings were here, for his celebration of life, and we went out to Michigan for a celebration of life out there. And we did come together as a family in the end, which is what he wanted. So
yes.
So that's a beautiful. That all worked out.
Yes, and that's what love does. Love brings everyone together in harmony, and whether there's differences or not, you came together for him, and it all worked out. Well, we need to take our first break, Susan, and when we come back, everyone, we're going to talk more about the book and the different people and how to get in touch with Susan. Also, you can call just to congratulate Susan. Feel free to do that. Bob is in the house, and our phone number is 833-220-1200. If you have a question or a comment, feel free to call in. We'll be back in a moment.
Experience a different yet profound healing with Reconnective Healing. Includes yet expands beyond any and all known forms of energy healing. The Reconnective Healing spectrum is comprised of the full healing and evolutionary continuum of energy, light, and information. It allows for healings that are not just physical, not just mental, not just emotional, yet go beyond that to bring healing that includes the evolution of your very being and essence. Deborah Beauvais, trained and certified by world-renowned Dr. Eric Pearl, offers appointment hours at Seacock Family Chiropractic in Seacock, Massachusetts. For questions or to set up both distance or local sessions, call Deborah at 508-431-1959. Again, 508-431-1959. Or go to lovebyintuition.com. That's lovebyintuition.com.
Calling all authors. Have you been considering an audiobook? Well, look no further. Come take advantage of Dream Vision 7 Radio Network's unique in-house audiobook production, which includes benefits and bonuses from our radio station. Let our knowledgeable staff guide you to create the audiobook you've always dreamed of without breaking the bank. Check out our full one-stop service from A to Z, including the ACX process. Schedule a free consultation by calling 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or go to dreamvision7radio.com.
After narrowly surviving the attack on Sandy Hook Elementary, first grade teacher Caitlin Roy DeBellis was left searching for answers that would never come. Eventually, she chose to focus on questions that could be answered. How do I make sure this tragedy doesn't define us? How do we get our control back? Those two questions led her to found the 501c3 nonprofit organization Classes for Classes. When gifts poured into their classroom, she decided they would help someone else by paying it forward and being kind. This developed into a social network which allows K-8 classrooms to connect so that every student in the United States can learn these crucial lessons. Classes for Classes' mission is to build students' social-emotional intelligence by connecting them to care. All C4C projects are crowdfunded. Any teacher in the U.S. can visit classesforclasses.org. That's classes, the number 4, classes.org. Sign up today.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids children's book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we are back. We're talking with Susan Lataille, who has a book, Shining a Light on Grief, Real Women, Sharing Real Stories of Love and Loss. She is one of the 11 that are in the book. And there's another book that's coming that we'll talk about in a minute. But I wanted to just make sure everyone knew that not only is she a certified master grief coach, Susan is also a certified integrative health coach, a Reiki master, Akashic Records consultant, and a full wave breath facilitator. You can reach her by going on the site. It's shiningalightongrief.com, just as it sounds, shiningalightongrief.com. Now, Susan, I wanted to ask you, like, when you were going, and you're still on your grief journey, did you find that there was something missing in the grief counseling that we have today?
I didn't seek out any type of counseling myself. I just didn't feel like that was right for me.
Mm-hmm.
There was, I had to do it, as everybody does. I mean, you grieve, you figure it out as you go along. And what I found mostly was that it was such a taboo subject that people didn't know how to talk about it. People didn't know how to talk to you. People like that I used to talk to all the time, if I'd see them out somewhere, they'd ignore me, or because they just didn't know what to do with that. And I think that was one of the reasons that I wanted to write these books too, was because I wanted to be able to start a conversation. And because it's okay to talk about. I think it needs to be talked about more. It shouldn't be something that's taboo or something that's tucked away in a dark corner and, you only discuss in private. I believe that because of what I'm doing, and when I tell people, oh, I have these books, I'm a grief coach, it automatically gives them permission to open up. And I find that consistently, which I love, because when I first started going through my grief journey, I didn't find that very often. Occasionally I would find a person who knew me and had their own grief story so we could talk about it. And that's what really helped me. What helped me is by sharing it, by talking about it, by sharing stories of him, by keeping his memory alive. That's what's helped me. And, and it just changes and morphs over the years. And now, I've done a lot of personal work. And most recently, I had quite an awakening and a real experience of really knowing that he's part of me, that he's never gone. Right. That he's actually part of me, as with other people that, that we lose over the years, that means so much to us, that they're never gone. They're always just right there, and I think that's something special to hold in our heart, that, and that we can shatter and we can still love, and we can shatter again and we can still love, because that's really all there is, right? There's only love. So,
absolutely.
And unfortunately, when we love that deeply, we're going to grieve.
Absolutely, so and it's going to be deep. I would rather love deeply and grieve deeply than to never love at all, or to have a love that's half empty, and you call it love, but it really isn't. Whether it's anyone in the family or beyond or within your community, love is so important. And I want to thank you for bringing up the people don't talk about it, and it's because they're uncomfortable and they don't know what to say. And we don't have, and this is why it's so important for these books coming out, because you're teaching people it's okay to ask this. It's okay to ask that. And so what happens is people just fade away. Even good friends fade away because they do not know how to handle it, what to say to you. And then there's even conversations out there in the medical world that after 6 months, move on, things of that sort.
Right.
And I think that's misleading the broader population. Everyone grieves differently, but it's not over in 6 months. It's a journey that you learn to live with. And and talking about the person, I think it's a disservice to the person as well as to the family if the person is not brought up. It's all about facing pain. If you stuff it, 10 years later, you're going to be in a big soup of a mess, either physically or mentally or emotionally. And to talk about the happy times, the experiences, the unique idiosyncrasies that person had that no one else does, and celebrate them. And then we're teaching the children how to grieve as they age, and they follow what they see from the parents and the family members. So I see these books that you've created from a place of love, and your intention and mission is perfect for helping those that get shut out because family members and friends don't know what to say.
Yeah.
So thank you.
I hear that so often sometimes when people, learn about what I do, and they just, because they haven't experienced it, their terminology is awful and it's insulting, and, oh yeah, shouldn't you be over that by now? And it's like, because they haven't had that personal loss, that they have no idea. And I certainly give them grace, because eventually they will learn. Anybody who lives long enough will experience that at some point. And it's like, and I've told some people, oh, never ever say that to somebody grieving if they say something inappropriate. But you give them grace because they just don't know. They don't. And that's why these stories are so important. So tell us, I wasn't aware, I missed that there's actually a second book in print. It's not in print yet. No, it's actually in editing right now. It's due to be in print by the end of April. It should be available by the end of April. And so what is the name of that book, or is it a series? It's a series, so that's volume 2 of Shining a Light on Grief. And that one has another 10 authors in it, 10 women that share their stories as well. Now, did you find it easier were people coming to your door because they saw an opportunity? And the reason I'm asking that, and you mentioned it earlier, and it's so true, even the women that are writing, in their writing, they will say, I wasn't prepared for this. I wasn't expecting that it would be healing for me to write about my loss. Yeah, because most everyone has gone in it with the, intention of, oh, I'm writing this because I want to help others. And what really happens is it helps them as well. Yes. As well. It helps others, but first it helps them, just process, maybe another layer, maybe another 2 layers, maybe another 3 or 4 layers, who knows, of their grief, because as they're writing, it's very cathartic, and it's unexpected in a lot of ways. Yes. So to answer your question, the second book was a little bit more difficult to get authors, because the first time I knew all the authors, and it was hand-picking them. And it was like, okay, like I pretty much knew who would say yes more than likely, where when going into the second book, I didn't know all the authors. There are 1, 2, 3, maybe only 3 authors that I didn't know. So So I found them in other ways, just mostly by social media or by a referral.
Mm-hmm.
So
now, is it modeled like the first one?
It is, yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
So what do you need? I mean, what do you need in your mission or to continue and accomplish your mission? The listeners are here, so share what you need. And your goal.
I guess what I need is just to spread the word, is to let people know that these books are available and that we should be shining a light on grief, not putting it in the dark, taking it out of those shadows and having real conversations about it. That it's not meant to be unspoken. I don't know about you, but for me, growing up, when I lost my grandmother at a tender age of 12, nobody talked about it. It's like once all the services were over, her name, she was never, ever brought up again.
Mm-hmm.
And as a child, it's like, even if I was what do you do with that? Like you look at your parents and you go, okay, I guess you're just not supposed to ever talk about this person again. And that's what you learn. So now it's like unlearning all those unhealthy patterns, because I didn't stop to grieve my grandmother till I was in my 30s, because I just stuffed it down and just never thought about it.
Exactly.
So I think just having those conversations, let's have those conversations. If you know somebody who's grieving, hand them a book. Say, maybe this might help you. Because that's the way a lot of my books are bought as gifts. And I think, just spreading the word that it's okay, that it's part of life, that there's people out there that understand where you are right now.
Right. And you're never alone, and yet you are alone, especially if you're older. And I have a sister that her husband passed a year ago, and they were like glue. And it's challenging for her, because even though we're there, the sisters are there, it's not the same because Frank's not there. And that's everything that she says all the time. But he's not here. And he has been giving her beautiful signs and messages, and she gets them.
Nice.
But she wants him in the physical. And that's the very hard part of it all, is because you don't have them in the physical.
Right.
Yeah. And the way I look at things, the only way that we will see more of them on the other side is if we evolve to a higher vibration, and then we can see and hear and share more. And that's something that will happen someday, or some decade, some century, as we evolve as a species,
Right, yeah, definitely.
Yes. So let's start with asking you your services, and that's one of the things that I wanted to know. I do know that you're doing online group sessions for grieving, but do you do face-to-face, one-on-one, or group?
I do. I do not do face-to-face coaching one-on-one. I was doing part of an organization called Integrated Healthcare Solutions. I was doing some grief sessions in person there in Cranston. That series has ended for now. We're waiting. They're a nonprofit organization, so they're in the process of obtaining more funds so that we can offer this more and more to help people, because there's definitely no shortage of those that need help or that are grieving. So other than that, I mean, I do phone grief coaching. I do it by phone because it's just easier, and they don't have people when they're grieving. Sometimes it's just easier that way to do it by phone and not in person. So, and I also just became a Heart Math certified mentor. So that's something else that I'm going to be starting some series of classes with that too, working with some groups.
And now, are you blending all your modalities, which is kind of what we end up doing, pulling this, pulling that, depending on the client? But is the foundation now in your present success, is it focused on grief only, or are you doing other types of sessions as well because you have the breath work and the Akashic records?
Yeah, a lot of it I don't necessarily do. I am focusing a lot on the grief because of the books, and my intention is to keep this series going. Right now my vision is, to have a series of 10 books. I'm also working with some authors from the Gloria Gemma Breast Cancer Research Foundation. So I'm working with a group of their authors to do a book in collaboration with them. So the way I like coaching and like seeing people really, expand and be able to do some significant healing is through writing their story. Writing their story, that's where my niche really is, and that's what I get the most satisfaction out of, is seeing these authors, how they just blossom from when I first meet them to getting their story done. So it's just... And
there must be some joy in that too, because you're seeing them share. Well, we have to take a quick break, Susan. Okay. Everyone stay with us. Don't go away. We'll be back in a moment.
Take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition Show, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Eastern. Our message is love in the purest form. The light within us all is a guide to recall our beginning, to learn to love self and humankind, and to feel the higher power of our own divinity. To attract love, one needs to be love. Come join us and step into this glorious vibration called love.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids Children's Book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
Are miracles real? Can you move from mayhem to miracles? 30 prominent authors say yes as they share their high fives and down lows of challenges, abuse, addiction, and love. Experience hope, the magic elixir of miracles, through the personal stories of New York Times bestselling authors James Redfield, Dr. Bernie Siegel, Sister Jenna, Reverend Temple Hayes, and many more. If you like bestsellers, chaos to clarity, and crappy to happy, you'll love crying and laughing through mayhem to miracles. Sacred stories of transformational hope. Available now on Amazon and in bookstores worldwide.
It's a child's job to play, to learn, and to have fun. It's an adult's job to keep them safe. Did you know that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before the age of 18? Every day, families enter the Children's Advocacy Center because a child's courage to tell someone what happened to them. Keeping our children safe starts with a conversation. This is Michelle Aranger, Executive Director of the Children's Advocacy Center. Learn more on how to keep your child safe. Visit cacofbc.org. This message made possible by the Fall River Rotary Club.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And welcome back. To get in touch with Susan Lataille, go on her site, shiningalight lifeonGrief.com. Is that the best way to connect with you, Susan?
Sure. I can also be emailed at susan@susanlataille.com.
Okay, and Lataille is L as in love, A, T as in Tom, A, I, L, L, E. Susan Lataille.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. How do you see the world today with everything that you've experienced and where we are in this world? How do you see it?
I see it as full of possibility. I see it as you never know what's going to happen from one moment to the next, and just stay open. And I stay positive as best I can, and just be the best that I can be in helping others and being of service in any way I can. I don't know. I guess I see the beauty in the world. I know that you can see the chaos and everything that's going wrong, but there's also so much beauty, especially with spring coming.
Yes. Yes, and there's so much work to be done. So if everyone focused on all the different areas and pieces and systems and everything that we are used to, I mean, the healthcare system, there's so much work to be done.
Yes.
And we, imagine if everyone focused on that to have a better functioning world for everyone, for every culture, for every child, for every senior, all goodness. And stuff will happen because we're on Earth. And you're going to have ebbs and flows. But if we put our energy towards making something better, and then at the same time we fill ourselves up with love and compassion and glee for doing good stuff, I think if everyone could feel just 10% of that, they would make different choices.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So what do you want, this last 10 minutes or so, what do you want the listeners to know? Just whatever you desire, if you want them to connect with you about the next books, share whatever you desire.
Yeah, definitely. If anyone is interested in sharing their story, I'm always looking for authors. I'm really looking for some men. So my next book, I'd like it to be men, because men have such a different perspective on grief and what their stories are. So I'm looking for men. So if you know of any men in your life, or if there are any men out there listening that have a story that they'd like to share, I'd love to talk to you. So, I mean, that's I guess the biggest thing that I'm looking for, because it just continues on my mission. It continues to help other people. It continues to help on all levels. Like we've already spoke about, it helps the person who's doing the writing, the author. It helps me. It helps the people that are reading it. So it's doing a lot of good in the world on many levels. So
yes, and it doesn't matter where they live, right?
No.
They don't have to be in Rhode Island or Massachusetts.
No, because everything we do is on Zoom, so it's virtual. Right now, I have 2 authors in Florida in my second book and 1 in New York. So, and plus everybody is still scattered around this area too. It just makes it so much easier to meet virtual when we meet, to be able to get as many people together at one time. So yes, I'm open to people anywhere. Anywhere is doable. So that makes the range much greater.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I like the idea.
And if you've ever thought about writing a book, if you've ever thought that you have a story to share, I'm here to guide you along, and it's a chapter. It's not a whole book, so it's not as overwhelming. And it's just one of those things. It can be a gift, for everyone to share that story, because all our stories are important. They're all important for someone to read and be able to identify with. You never know who that person or people might be that your story can help.
Yes, I like the idea of men, because a lot of men, if you think from that perspective, they're keeping it. They're those that are keeping it quiet, stuffing it inside, and not talking and having conversations. And they would be perfect to help the other men that would be reading the book and healing themselves as well as they write. So that would be wonderful. How about, are you open to a young teenager that wants to share the story about their mom or their dad?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think everybody's story is important. It might be that I do a book with teens in the future.
Yes, and that's one of the thoughts that popped in my heart is when the father or mom transitions, then a lot of times the kids don't know what to do, don't know how to grieve, don't know what to say, because they're feeling sad for the mom, say, but they're not addressing their own grief. And that can lead to depression and different issues because they're balancing that grief with trying to do their schoolwork or interacting at school, whether they're in high school or junior high or even college. So I think of that because I think of my own situation. My girls were young and I was young, and there wasn't anything out there back then. The only grief counseling or help were for the elderly. And that's some, things have changed in the last 20 years or so, which is wonderful. But I think by having a teen write, it gives them a voice to really share what's on their heart.
I agree. I totally agree with that because, a lot of times, they don't know what to do with that. Their friends can't identify with them, so they feel alone.
Yes. Yes. So I think that would be that could be one of your 10.
Yes, it could be.
Yes. So is there anything else, like the third book that you're working on, that would be the men that you're going to be focusing on?
That will be volume 3, yes. The one with Gloria Gemma, which I'm working on, that will be separate. That will be its own thing because that one's a collaboration. So,
yeah. So you still working with? Is Maria still there?
Oh yes, she is. Yeah, she's great. Good. I love working with her.
Yes. So that's a beautiful collaboration between the two. So I'm happy to hear that, Susan. So,
yeah, I also do a monthly. I do a grief group with Gloria Gemma too.
Oh.
Where families that have lost, that were part of the foundation. We meet once a month. So
very good.
So that's been very good.
Yes, very good. I had been in touch with them quite a bit, and my friend Marilyn was there with them, doing her journey before she transitioned past, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, so there's some memories there, and Maria she has such a big heart.
She does, yes.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. They work hard over there. They help an awful lot of people.
Yes. So give out your contact information again, and yes, do that, Susan, right now.
Okay, so my website is shiningalightonGrief.com, or you can reach me by email at susan@susanlataille.com. Lataille is spelled Lataille.
Very good.
Thank you.
And what would you like to leave with the listeners in this last minute or two?
Be kind to yourself.
Yes, that's powerful. Very good. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on, and I'm thrilled that you're almost ready with the second book, and that I love your mission, and it needs to be heard and said, and everyone needs to have conversations to help each other. And so I thank you so much, Susan, and we'll stay in touch.
Yes, please, and thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And everyone, once the show is going to be heard again, so tell your friends. Next Wednesday and Friday, 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern Time, it'll air. It'll be archived, and you'll be able to pick that up on our site, Dream Visions, all one word with an S on the end, the number 7radio.com. Share it with everyone, and keep in mind this book. I am going to get a copy for my sister, but I think everyone should have a couple copies at home, so that it's a beautiful gift, and it's healing to hear other stories. You can relate to it, you can understand it, and it's soothing. So check it out. Buy the book, Shining a Light on Grief. You can find it on her website and on Amazon. Everyone, until the next time we come together in love and compassion and community, bye for now. Au revoir.
Are you seeking a clearer path to love? Then tune in to the Love by Intuition show next week. All designed to your highest good. To contact Deborah Beauvais, owner of Empowered Connections, call her at 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or link on to lovebyintuition.com. Remember, we are all one, and we are all part of the miracle of love.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.